Today we're looking at the ScanGuage 2, and this is hooked up to my 2011 Sprinter. It comes with your quick start guide and your user manual. I just have it here temporarily. I'm not sure where I'm going to mount it, but I have the cord running through one of the accessory switch areas here. Now let me show you where this thing connects. Again, I believe this is made for cars that are 1996 and newer, because all vehicles are required to have an OBD connection, which is down here. You remove this flap and you connect this here. And I was actually thinking Amazon actually makes a OBD-Y, so you can have this connected all the time and have a port available, so if you take it to the dealership they can just plug into there. But if they have to, I guess they'll just disconnect here and plug their devices into here. So what this is a real-time vehicle monitoring system. Another feature of this ScanGuage tool is that it's able to read codes and also erase them. Now, I haven't had any codes pop up yet to read, so I can't comment on that. One of the reasons why I purchased this device was my stock instrument panel is very limited on what it tells me. Not sure if it's depending on what features or what options you select for your Sprinter, but on mine all I have is a fuel gauge that's very primitive and a temperature gauge that you can also switch over to miles per hour. Why it doesn't have your average gallons per minute or features that are pretty common and standard on most cars, I don't know. So real quickly, I'm going to show you how this thing works. There's 4 gauges that you can monitor at one time. Each of these corners is a gauge, and you can cycle through each one. It doesn't matter, they're both going to have the same options as far as gauges. It's just your preference on where you want to put that gauge. Now, I don't know exactly every gauge that's on here. I'm familiar with most, but just to give you an example, I believe there's about 15 gauges that it'll monitor. Just to name off a few of the gauges, we have our boost, miles per gallon, miles per hour, your RPMs, throttle positioning sensor, your water temperature, average fuel economy, your trip fuel cost, mileage until empty, transmission fluid temperature, cost per mile, your voltmeter for your battery, intake air temperature, fuel pressure, gallons per hour, ignition timing, engine loading. Also, I was able to go online and find a specific gauge for my vehicle, which ended up being the transmission temperature. I had to enter a specific code into the device, which wasn't too hard, just read through the instructions, and now I can monitor my transmission temperature. So by hitting this red one, it takes you back to the main menu. So you would hit scan if you wanted to look for some codes. You can go back. Your gauges, that brings you back to the 4 displays on whatever gauges you want to set up to be visible. More will give you some other options. Now your display, which is kind of nice, you're able to change the color depending on what you think will be better. Also, one of the main reasons I purchased this ScanGuage 2 was for the ability to monitor how much fuel you have. So now when you're on a long trip, you know exactly how many gallons per hour you're using. What I like to know is how many more miles I can drive and how much time you have before going empty. Now, I've only had this device for about a month, but I found that it's been pretty accurate to within a gallon each time I'm filling up. It seems to be pretty accurate. Again, the only problem is every time you fill up, you'll have to manually hit the selection for fill up, not necessarily have to enter any information other than that, and then you'll be ready to go for the next trip. What works is the first time you fill up, you don't input any information. The second time you fill up, you'll hit this fill up selection here, and you'll compare what you put in to what the computer is telling you, and you could adjust that, and then from that point forward your computer is calibrated, or the ScanGuage is calibrated correctly. So I just filled up at the gas station, and I'm going to take you through a fill up real quick. So we go to more, go to fill up. This is what it's telling me that I have used, and let's see, that's what it says on the actual fuel pump. So you can see that's pretty close. So what I'll do is you can either adjust this, or if you're fine, you could just hit done. The way I have mine set up, I have bigger tires on my vehicle. This ScanGuage allows you to put in a percentage to help compensate for the bigger tires. So what I like to know is my miles per hour. I want to have a little bit more accurate number. I like to see my miles per gallon to help save on fuel. I also want to know how many more miles I have until I'm empty. And also up here, I have how many gallons I have left until empty. So another great feature that is probably standard on most vehicles but wasn't on my 2011 Sprinter is the trip computers. It has a couple of trip computers. And what that means is current is telling me what I'm currently using, and you can cycle through how many miles, your RPMs, how many hours you've been driving, your max miles per hour, your average miles per hour, even your fuel cost. So you can see how this could be pretty helpful if you're somebody that drove all the time and needed to keep a log on how much fuel you're using. Okay, and then there's today. If you were driving and you shut off your engine for more than, I believe it's 5 minutes, all that information would now move over to today, and you would start a new current trip. Now, if you let your car sit for more than, I believe it was maybe 8 or 10 hours, all that information goes into your previous day and gets logged there. Okay guys, thanks for watching, and like I said, for my 2011 Sprinter, this device is a must-have because it gives me a lot of features that aren't standard on my vehicle. And if you're like me, you want to know a little bit more of what's going on underneath your hood. If you guys like this video, please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for some more videos.